So yesterday I posted up to the Battletech playlist my new battle group. We're going to be starting a campaign, starting about early April, playing through May, June, July, August into September. And what I wanted to do was launch an entirely new and different mercenary force. Rather than pulling in mechs and machines that I already own, do something different. And if you're just jumping into Battletech, you know this is a dangerous place to be because it's a chance to acquire and utilize new miniatures. Now, normally with Battletech, yes, the mechs are the primary focus of the game. And I love playing mechs. There are so many favorite mechs that I have. But what we tend to see with the possibility of combined arms in Battletech is where you take mechs, you pull in tanks and vehicles, you pull in infantry, you might have some air support, you might have some artillery, this idea of total warfare. For the most part, you look and say, what vehicles can support your mechs? The mechs are primary, the vehicles are secondary. So if I have a lance and I say, well, these are the things that the lance does well, and it creates opportunity, maybe I'll take some vehicles that can complement that, piggyback on that, ride on that. Or likewise, say, this is where my mechs are deficient. So let me take some vehicles, lower battle values to kind of boost that aspect. I'm doing something completely different. I'm going to make the vehicles the primary focus, the primary thrust of this battle group. There are going to be mechs involved, but I'm going to be looking and saying the vehicles and tanks. Tanks are primary. The weaknesses of the tanks are going to be boosted by the mechs that I select and the tactics used by those mechs. So there's going to be a couple of very, very specific machines that I've selected. At the same time with the mechs being mechs, and we all have our favorite mechs that we like to play, the Marauder and the Warhammer. Well, the Warhammer fits in the design. The Marauder, it fits. It's not as optimal, but it's just a really cool looking model. And I have wonderful memories of playing the Marauder and the chance to play that machine for a couple of months. I'm taking that opportunity. So I would say that this list that I'm building is probably about like 90% optimized. 90% like, let's look at the meta. Let's just get that sledgehammer. There's a few little bits and pieces of fun stuff that I also want to incorporate. So jumping in, what we're looking at here, I wanted to have the primary focus the Shrek PPC carrier. I should say Inner Sphere, no clan tech, no lost tech. The PPC carrier is a scary tank. It is a fearsome tank. It brings awesome, as in the mech awesome, but also awesome in itself, firepower in a lower battle value buy-in. You are mounting 3 PPCs onto a tank. So right away, just one of these tanks, what you see is the fact that you've got a weapon that has long range, not dependent on ammo, hits hard, right? Hits very hard, 10 points. You're mounting 3 of them. You have redundancy. Redundancy is so important in Battletech. Redundancy is where if I have one shot to take, I may hit, I may miss. Yes, the odds, depending on what that's going to be. As soon as I had 2 of those weapons, I've increased my chance. An example would be like an archer. I've got 2 long-range missile 20-packs, but it could be part of a lance. I could have a 20-pack on my Cyclops and a 20-pack on my Atlas. I'm firing both of those at the same target. So we want weapons in the same profile to be able to fire multiples at the target. The Shrek PPC carrier has 3 PPCs, not just 2, 3 pushing that out. That's pretty scary. That's going to catch the attention. On the positive side, it has the potential, because this is a dice-based game, it has the potential to do terrific damage, wonderful damage. The negative side, the negative aspect, of course, is, well, look, it's going to attract the attention of your opponent. They can't sit there and let this tank just blast away for multiple turns. They have to deal with it. So we need to balance both of those out. In selecting a miniature for this, what we're looking at is the Death Ray Designs. And I'm going to drop that link down in the info box and in the comment. They have a tremendously awesome amount of custom designed and scaled Battletech miniatures, both mechs and tanks. I really love their tanks, and I wanted to make their tanks, specifically the optics of this tank, to really pop on the table. Now, in my collection, I already have a couple of Shrek carriers, but these are the classic metal miniatures. And to me, they look a little ho-hum. They don't look really that scary. I mean, yes, in the tech manual, they're mounting 3 PPCs, and I get it. It's like a streamlined look, but it looks very, very underpowered. I wanted something that physically stands out on the table. I want this to be a heavy battle tank. I want you to notice that. And the heft, the design of the Death Ray miniature fits perfectly. It looks scary. It should be scary. It looks like a centerpiece. So that is going to be the focus of the list. I have 4 of these. 4. Now, does that mean I'm going to play 4? Let's sidebar for a second and talk about list building. This is important for the framework, because as I add the various units and go through this is part 1 of many. I'm not only sharing my design decisions in building this, but I'm trying to push out and give you some guidelines as you look at your own lists in Battletech, but also to look and ask yourself, based on how things are designed, like, what would Fritz exploit? What would he try to find my weakness? And maybe you can counter that. Or likewise, as I'm explaining my thought process in selecting these mechs and machines, you're going to say to yourself, well, look, yes, he's got some good coverage. He's got some great ideas, but this is where it's weak. This is where I would personally go after him and try to exploit. So I'm going to sidebar for a second. You build a list, a lance, a battle group, whatever we're going to call it. And the idea is, based on the size of that list, the point value, the battle value, the power points, the currency, the squadron points, whatever it's going to be, right? Battletech, it's a lance, and battle value or tonnage or C-bills. You're looking and you're saying, I'm trying to do something on the tabletop. I'm trying to do something. So within that battle value, you're trying to make the reality of that list come true. It needs to adjust. Now, here's an example. I'm going to switch to a different game system where we don't want to be. Playing Warhammer 40,000, sci-fi miniature-based game. And what we saw at the time, a number of years ago, points for your army. You played a number of points. So, this tank was worth 250 points. This tac squad was 120 points. This speeder was 35 points. We would agree ahead of time of the points to play, and then you draw from your army books the list you want to play. The standard game at the time was 1750 points. 1750. That's what we had to build your army. You could play a game smaller, you could play a game larger, but that being the tournament standard at the time, that's where you built your army. So I would build my army to play at 1750 points, to say, this is what I'm going to do with my space elves and flying around on their jet bikes. Here's what's going to happen. That was the tactica. What would happen playing at the club is we would have people come in that wanted to play 2,000 points, or they would look at a list and say, this army, I can really build a solid army, but it works at 2,000 points or 2,500 points. So they'd come in with their optimized army for 2,500 points and say, hey, Fritz, I'll play you. Now, I've got to bring my army up to 2,500 points. I don't have the models for that, or that completely changes my tactica. So I add in a bunch of filler, right? I take some other units, I take some infantry. Yes, I'm up to that number of points, but my list isn't optimized, and I would get smashed on the table. I might as well have been playing the 1750-point list. So when you design your list, you have a theme. It needs to operate at multiple levels. Adding to it or subtracting to it, it needs to operate at multiple levels. I don't want to have a Battletech Lance or battle group that says, look, I need 3,000 points to operate. If it scales down because I have to remove things, I lose key components. That's not going to work. So within that framework, the Shrek battle tank, I have 4 of them. That's the core. The other elements of the list are going to bolt on and over. Depending on the battle value, I'm going to start with 2 of these tanks. And then I'm going to add in my other elements. If we scale up more battle value, then I add 3 of these tanks. And we scale up the other aspects. If we're at the highest battle value we're going to play, I'm adding 4. Now, the reason why I'm not adding 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, as tempting as that is, with the overall synergy of the battle group I'm building, once I start going beyond that number, I don't really gain much. And now I'm really trying to support way too much. 4 is the maximum number that I can field with all of the other units that I'm going to need to make this battle group work. I could scale it down. Now, if we get to 1, if I take 1 tank, then there's really not much of a thrust there. 2 is the absolute minimum for a small game. That's 6 PPCs working together on a turret. That's got some bite. Okay, the framework. And this is a heavy-looking tank. This is a fantastic miniature. 2 pieces. The turret moves. I'm going to magnetize the turrets. I knew I had it somewhere. I was going through the gaming closet and go through my Warhammer 40K stuff. Then we get to Space Fleet. Then we get to Dark Future, and I know I'm getting closer. I had a box somewhere of those rare earth magnets, those really small magnets that we used to magnetize. I'm magnetizing all of the turrets, so this way they can actually turn to face. So I appreciate the 2-piece mold and the ability to do that. So within this framework, taking these Shreks, these PPC carriers, I'm going to pound you at range. I'm going to fire multiples of these at the target. 2 things, 2 possibilities that I'm confronted with. Because remember, I'm not taking it personally. I'm really not. You're going to bring a lot of momentum. You've got to stop these battle tanks. You can't just let me blast away. You're going to try and stop them. So the 2 ways to stop them are, and now this is what I need to counter in the list. The 2 ways to stop them. Pound them at range. Dig in, get some cover. I won't say trade blows, but if I'm in a good position, I don't want to be out in the open field. If I'm in a good hull down position, but potentially you are in a better hull down position or concealed position, maybe city fight, city tech, where you say, okay, like I've got a better position. I'll trade some blows on these tanks. I'll hit these tanks from range. If you're going to play the range game and stay at that range, then I need a way to pile on more long-range firepower. I'm already at long range with the Shreks, but pile on more long-range firepower to break you fast, to really overwhelm you. I might not always be able to see you with that. So looking at units that are going to support from long range or counter you from long range, what would you select? Now, I've already selected it. Yesterday's vlog that I posted up to the Battletech playlist, you can see those selections. And I'm going to go through multiple parts talking about these selections and how they bolt on, again, to give you an idea of the overall battle group. And am I giving away any secrets? Look, the guys that I'm playing with, you kind of know what I was going to play. And it's a done deal because I've got to paint these up and we've got to model them. I'm going to also be posting that to the channel here. Death Ray does some amazing pre-printed custom bases, hex bases that look fantastic. So they're going to be modeled on all of those. I'm trying to figure out, do I do like a red Mars type look? Do I do kind of a city fight, city tech look? Do I do a gray type look? But all that's done and the list is built. So leaking it now and building it now, I think there's more value in putting it out there and sharing with you my discussion points than for the 10 or 11 us playing, right, revealing that in the moment. And it's too late to go back and change things. So we're locked in. Need something to counter at range. Lay on more firepower. Slight hint, indirect firepower and direct firepower. Now, second to this, of course, is you close the distance. You say, look, I'm not going to sit there and just eat 3, 6, 9, 12 PPCs on a turret every turn. Not going to happen. I'm going to close super fast, super aggressive, super hyper, and just smash those tanks, because the Shrek has okay armor. I mean, it's not great, it's not bad, but also being a tank, there are vulnerabilities. You see, I'm going to close and I'm going to smash this thing. Well, I need something in the battle group to slow you down, to prevent that, not stop it, because here's the thing in wargaming, nothing's guaranteed, right? I mean, I try and leverage the dice. I try to keep the odds in my favor. Never tell me the odds. I will invoke the dice gods and go for glory, but nothing is guaranteed. I can just influence. So if I say you're going to move into my Shreks and I'm going to stop you, I'm going to blow your units up coming in, I don't know if I can reliably do that. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's missions. There's tactics. I can't guarantee I will stop you, but I can guarantee I'll slow you down. I can guarantee that I'll keep you a number of hexes away or force you to engage a screening unit. I can guarantee that I can slow you down. So the next aspect of this battle group is going to be tanks that can slow you down on the way in, to getting to short range, to getting to optimal range, to dealing significant damage to my PPC carriers. The next battle group for that is if I've slowed you down. So if you're staying at long range, I'm going to punish you even more. If you close to short range to really take out these tanks, I'm going to stop you a number of hexes away, slow you down, counterattack. I need a unit or units, and they're going to be tanks. We are going to layer in mechs. We're going to talk about the mechs, how this wonderful, beautiful Battletech chaos that I'm creating, the mechs are there to take advantage of that, to see what they can do. So that's where the mechs eventually bolt into this list. I need something that can counterattack. So I slow you down and I counterattack, and that needs to be decisive. So what do I pick to counterattack with? Well, one of the things with you coming closer, or my opponent coming closer, to deal with the PPC carriers. And by closer, what I mean is, it's one thing to have a mech, like, let's say, first mech that comes to mind, Grasshopper, right? One Grasshopper versus one PPC battle tank. Just kind of what if. Like, yeah, you could fire the LRM 5-pack, but really what you want to do with the Grasshopper is get close so you can utilize the lasers, so you can potentially get to the minimums of the PPC. So you could possibly use your short-range weapons and blast me with everything, and I don't know, maybe even kick my tank, right? You're going to close. By that virtue of closing, what can my counterattack be that is beyond decisive at focused, close range? Something that can deliver that massive, massive wrecking crew knockout punch. Something selected to do that very, very well. So that is the focus. Now, we've got some other elements in the list. Again, if you're going back and looking at yesterday's vlog, you can see the overall picture of this build for some hints and some clues. But the primary build is going to be these Shrek battle tanks. Big, massive, powerful. Finally got them to the proper dimensions, in my opinion. It has to scale up. It has to scale down. So we can play it at any reasonable battle value and still maintain the integrity, still maintain the focus of what we're trying to do. If that's the focus, I'm going to look to be punishing you with that redundancy, with that range, with that alpha damage of the PPCs. If you stay at range, then I'm just going to rain down more pain on you and break you. If you close, what's my answer? Can't stop you. I'm going to try and stop you, but I can't guarantee it. But I can guarantee that I can delay you. And in that delay, deliver that killing blow. What other units, tanks, can support that? And then we layer over infantry. And then we layer over, again, in this wonderful chaos that I'm going to try and create, that is where the mechs are going to come in, where I'm looking to create so much tank chaos that it essentially gives the mechs free reign. Most mechs don't have free reign, meaning other mechs are going up against them, vehicles are going up against them. If I can keep my opponent so busy dealing with heavy armor, then what kind of mechs would you select to take advantage of that? That's the build. That's where we're going. And over the next couple of days, I'm going to post up the other bits and pieces. Then we'll do a final flyover for the list. Then we're going to get the hobby in because I've got to paint these mechs up. I've got to paint these vehicles up. We're going to base them. We're going to get everything absolutely ready. I've got a great little box. It was like a heavy cardboard book box that I found that I'm going to cut out the custom foam. So this way I can place those in there. There's rules for the custom areas for the custom dice I'm going to add. It's going to put the rule book. So essentially, I've got everything ready to play in one box. I need to be ready. I think it's like April 5th or 6th, whatever that first Saturday is in April. I need to be ready for it.